Good morning, everybody, and welcome along to beautiful Meydan Racecourse for Dubai World Cup Daybreak. It has been absolutely teeming out on the track this morning. Horse-wise, people-wise, there are about 50 media here at 4 a.m. It is all happening, and we will be bringing you up to date with what the horses have been up to over the next hour or so. And I say, been very, very busy. Lots of Japanese works to show you and things like that. So do stick with us. Very happy to welcome, for the first time this week, the voice of the Dubai World Cup, Pat Comerford, and it's such an exciting week, isn't it? You're looking forward to
Laura, thank you very much for having us on. It is. It's a great week. I mean, the build up to the week is just incredible. The amount of people getting out here to, I guess, talk about the various horses who are making their way here to Dubai for these feature races, and I mean all the different form that ties into this meeting. It's a very exciting week, and I mean it's once again proves that Dubai really is the melting pot of world racing, where we're going to see hopefully the best of the best from all of the world's nations come together and race it out on either the dirt or the turf.
Yeah, horses from 13 countries represented across the 9 races. So we've got 30.5 million in prize money and 35 individual group or Grade 1 winners. And we've got lots of Australians on our panel, not so many out there on the track, but Cassie's been here all week. Cassie Fahy, welcome back. And say, super busy morning. All the world's media have now arrived, or those that are coming anyway.
That's right. So Monday was a little bit quieter, but still a good presence. Tuesday I thought a couple more, and then today it just imploded. There we go. Okay, it's Dubai World Cup week. Wednesday is when so many people really start to get in amongst it. I must admit, I was up here at about 5:15 this morning, and it had an eerie, beautiful kind of feeling because the call to prayer was going on in the background. The sun hadn't risen just yet, and you could just see people milling around. The horses hadn't quite come out yet, and just that call to prayer, just to remind you where you are in the world. It was special.
Yeah, it really is. It is a lovely, beautiful sound, and eerie is a good way of sort of putting it. And say, couldn't believe how busy it was. There's an early GCC quarantine slot that starts at 4 o'clock, and I was lucky enough to see Talal Al Khaladir, the reigning Kahela Classic winner, this morning. Hopefully, we'll show you those pictures in a moment or two, because we have got a lot to show you. This is Rattle and Roll, though. He was one of the first on the track in the normal sort of American/Japanese slot, and that's at 5 o'clock. And Danny Ramsey on board, Pat. He's one of the stories wherever he goes. 75 years old, that man.
I know. I got to meet him the other week. I mean, he was walking around in Dubai World Cup, a jacket and a hat from the Dubai World Cup in the late 90s. That's how long he's been around and involved with the racing here, bringing horses. And great to see that he's still back here. He's obviously a rider who knows this place very well.
Yeah, we'll hear from Kenny McPeek a little bit later on about just how Rattle and Roll is getting on. And Cassie, he's an interesting horse. He's had very much a Middle East campaign. Kenny prepped him in the main local prep for the Saudi Cup, which he won. He ran quite well in the Saudi Cup, and he's fully acclimatised. He came over here earlier than all of the others, and he's need a lot of things to drop right, but you could see him finishing certainly in the money, if not better.
I actually thought there was a lot of merit in his Saudi Cup run, and I thought he was at overs with some of the international bookmakers. I thought he handled himself up against those really big guns quite well, and I think William Björk is going to be riding on the day, which is a cool booking, and I actually thought Rattle and Roll could be a real top 5 hope.
Yeah, William Björk's due to sit on the horse tomorrow, I believe. That's Flood Zone, who's the favourite for the UAE Derbies. We take another look at Rattle and Roll, and the way that Danny rides, he sort of locks himself into position. It's quite distinctive, isn't it?
It's a very old school style of riding, but I mean, they you see so many young riders in this day and age now. They love pegging their irons up. They like looking very, very good on the horse. Well, if you've got a thoroughbred who's fully fit and as big as Rattle and Roll is, I mean, riding long's probably the best way to do it, and it's just all about obviously trying to get him to do as much as he needs to, but also save himself up for what he's hopefully going to be delivering a good run on Saturday night.
Yeah, I really hope so. Americans obviously got a very strong representation in the Dubai World Cup, as you would expect. Hitshow in there as well for Brad Cox, Il Miracolo for Antonio Sano, Katona, and Mixto for Doug O'Neill. He's a beautiful horse, if nothing else. Rattle and Roll, part of a very strong older horse contingent for Kenny McPeek at the moment. Here are the Japanese circling, as they tend to do in the mornings. That's Wilson Tesoro, one of their contenders in the Dubai World Cup, and we talked about this yesterday, Cassie, but the Japanese spend an awful lot more time on the track than everyone else, don't they?
Yeah, which I love, the media love, and I think the horses tend to love as well, because we got some cool shots in the last couple of days with the likes of Forever Young and his rider really showing him off, and not in a conceited way or anything like that, just in a real people-pleasing kind of a go. So I'm all about it. I thought Wilson Tesoro, he was fourth in Saudi. Yeah, he was about 10.5 lengths away from them, I think 12 lengths in fact, but those two cleared out from them, and so it's good to see those two Tesoros, the Wilson and the Ushbar, and of course Ushbar knows how to win this race, doesn't he?
Ushbar Tesoro is such a popular horse. As we understand it, this will be his final run. There's one obediently going right in between the markers, which are obviously put there to tell the track riders where to aim for, and that helps us keep the track in beautiful condition. That is Jereza, who I think has got a massive chance in the Longines Dubai Shima Classic. I really like this horse. He just seems to be a little bit under the radar. For me, that wasn't a particularly fast gallop. I'd say that was a more of a routine piece of work. There's Batwan. He's not going to be running on World Cup night. He's here. He came through the carnival, ran a few times during the carnival, and today he's ponying, if you will, his stablemate Fort Payne, I imagine that is. Oh, no, it isn't. That's the other one that's here on holiday, Recipient Foul. As we look at, I think that's Kurajoshi Joe in front there, and in behind Peptide Nile. The blue saddlecloth goes for trainer Hidenori Taki in the Godolphin Mile. And again, they're doing this sort of protracted warm-up that the Japanese horses do. And it's very interesting. They'll be out on the track for around about half an hour. Trying to work out who that is. It's quite hard to see the saddlecloth sometimes, even with the benefit of the floodlights at 5 a.m. And the one you won't see today is Forever Young. He did, as we brought you on the programme yesterday, he did a strong piece of work yesterday with his stablemate American Stage. So neither of those horses are coming out today, which is nothing to be concerned about, is it, Cassie? It's just generally after a work, the horses may just stay and tack walk in quarantine.
Absolutely, keep them a bit more relaxed. I think traditionally, back home in particular, a lot of our horses would probably do their main big final gallop on the Tuesday before the Saturday run. A lot of these obviously are waiting until today, Wednesday, to have their final big run. So the fact that he did it yesterday absolutely would be standard in many parts of the world, and he'll be enjoying a bit more of a relaxed day. I wonder what he'll be doing. I wonder if he'll go for a swim.
I believe they were going to walk him around. They've got a trotting ring. Okay. I believe that's what they were going to make use of in the quarantine. You won't miss the Tesoros, as I like to call them, because of this wonderful yellow livery. And what's interesting about it is it's not blinkers, it's just a hood, which is what Wilson Tesoro's got on the left. I believe there's no actual cup there, but it plays a role, Pat, in just shielding him from a bit of sound, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, they're very famous for wearing them. I mean, it doesn't matter where they go in the world, whether it's turf horses or dirt horses. They're very distinctive by, I guess, the colour of their gear. You know, it's just something that goes on them. I mean, it's probably more of a comfort thing anyway as well. He's had that on for his entire career, and I know, as I said, you see many great Japanese horses who are quite covered up in regards to in regards to covers, head coverings and stuff when they do go out to work. So. But he certainly, as you said, you won't miss him.
Maybe part of a routine as well, all part of that routine that gets them, like you and I, when we are missing something, maybe we don't quite feel 100%. Maybe that's for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you say, it's a bit like if you're preparing for a marathon or something, you're going to lay all your kit out, make sure you're wearing the same thing you did in the last race. As I said at the top of the show, this is very much a traditional work day, fast work day for the Japanese, which is why we can see so many of them in action. On the outside there, that is the Godolphin Mile horse Peptide Nile, and Kurajoshi Joe there, who runs in the Golden Shaheen. This might be trying to make it into West Acre. It's hard to see again. A little
Straight.
bit. Oh, that's Straight. No, Straight is the sole German representative on the card. Great that they're here, Pat. And again, they're probably quite realistic about his chances, but hopefully he can run well for Connections.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have the German representation here, and obviously their number one jockey at the moment as well, Thor Hammer Hansen, getting a ride, which is good to have him here. His strike rate last season was phenomenal. I think he was 15% better than any other rider. He was striking at well over 20% for his rides for the season. So, he's in a rich vein of form as well as a rider, and it's good to see that we are getting probably Germany's number one rider at the moment, also representing the country here for their sole.
Yeah, he's a Grade 2 winner, I think, back at home straight. This is Vungu Vungu, who was a dual Grade 1 winner in South Africa, now in the care of Graham Motion over in the States. I believe Graham arrives here to Dubai today. Of course, Graham's won a Dubai World Cup with Animal Kingdom. And this is a horse, I think, Cassie, that they might just in the back of their minds have more of an international campaign with him. He's the sort of horse we could see at Royal Ascot, I believe.
And I hope we do. He'll have a cool little entourage with him as well. As you mentioned, he's from a camp that knows how to prepare them for these big days. South African, now American star for a Hollywood syndicate. It sounds like it's got all of the features to make a good story if Isu Vungu Vungu can get across the line. And I have high hopes for him. I think he's a good roughie chance in the race, and certainly wish the connections very well.
I think he's got a big chance, is Vungu Vungu, in what is a pretty open Quoz Sprint. This is the UAE Derby contender Admire Daytona, goes for Yukihiro Kato, and the Japanese always to be feared in any race they turn up in, but the Derby in particular, I would say. And that is Maldune for trainer William Haggis, who had a close look at Maldune the other day, a very angular horse, and already been a wonderful week for William Haggis, of course, Cassie, whatever happens this weekend.
Well, it's great. It's just great to have trainers like him here. I know we've talked about being a real melting pot and people from all over the world, but the big names, you do want to see them coming to the Dubai World Cup, and they're certainly here with plenty of enthusiasm and chances.
This one having a little look at everything. It's got the head up, just taking everything in his surroundings. That is How Deep Is Your Love. Now, John Size is this horse's trainer. He must have had 20 media around him this morning. The Hong Kong the TV crew were straight on him. How Deep Is Your Love, leading contender for the Quoz Sprint, Pat. And I know this is a race you've looked at quite closely.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's a great horse to have in the race, and you can understand why John Size has decided that this was a likely target for him. I mean, the prize money on offer is great. Not only that, but also, a great run from him in the Silver Jubilee, which was the lead-up race for California Spangle last year. They are quite different in how they race. Obviously, California Spangle, an on-speed horse, which saw him race very well here. How Deep Is Your Love will be a bit different. He'll be getting back and he'll be having to run on, which we've seen be a bit of a downfall for some horses in recent times. I mean, Star of Mystery, probably the reason that she sort of fell into the runner-up position last year and didn't get as close as she did to California Spangle was that, get back and run on. So that style. So very interesting to see how they ride How Deep Is Your Love. But I mean, he's fit, and the preparation has almost been near identical to what they did last season with California Spangle. So very exciting horse and a welcoming addition to the race.
I'm struggling to get away from the fact that he's run Kaiying Rising close.
Twice. I mean, that's as good a sprint form as you'll get anywhere in the world at the moment. And I know, we always talk about the strength of Hong Kong form, but the fact that it can be sometimes, obviously, with that internal pool of horses, it can be a little bit different. But I mean, Kaiying Rising, I think, has now well and truly established that he could go anywhere in the world and he would be winning, and I think he'll do that this year. He'll go and contest an Everest, and he'll be up against the Australian sprinters there. So I think that form is, we're going to see now time and time again that it's probably the strongest sprinting form in the world at the moment, and the fact that he's making ground late and running on to a horse like to Kaiying Rising, I mean, that holds him in very good stead here in a race like the Quoz Sprint, and very exciting to see how he runs. Yeah,
he's a fascinating contender in a race that, say, is open to a degree, but he does have probably the best form, as Pat said. Good to have a quick look there at another one of the Japanese UAE Derby contenders, and this is Mixto for Doug O'Neill, taking a little bit of a hold as he goes round, but the rider got the situation well under control. And we'll hear a little bit later on from Leandro Mora, who's Doug's assistant. about how their 3 horses across the meeting are getting on. I like how he's going about his business here, Cassie.
Yeah, he looks like he's down to business, just looking around slightly there, but he certainly looks like he's on the nickel. And what about this one? Now, he's working up quite nicely. Who's this one? Il Miracolo, hard to miss with the fluffy breastplate, isn't he? He looks very sharp, and I noticed you were interviewing his connections yesterday and as well, and I think they're realistic, but I think they're just so happy to be here, which sums up the week, doesn't it?
I absolutely love it when you speak to a trainer as passionate as the owner of Il Miracolo, and he said, I am just hooked on racing. He said, I absolutely love it. He's so proud of his horse. He said his horse has never been as excited in the mornings and feeling as good in himself as he is this week. So as you say, they're hopeful of a big run, but I think certainly realistic. This is another of the Japanese contenders, I believe. Another one going around very happily, Ears Prick, which is, of course, what we like to see as we go back to Mixto. He's Frankie Dettori's ride, isn't he, Pat?
Certainly is. Three rides for him on the night here for Frankie Dettori. I mean, it's great to have him back here. He's such an influential rider to the United Arab Emirates, and you know it'd be almost weird not to have him riding on Dubai World Cup night. And look, it was great to see that they still have his locker number 1 in the jockey rooms is still Frankie Dettori's. No one sits there, and the only time usually it's ever used now is Dubai World Cup night when he makes his return. But yeah, that just goes to show the respect that the other riders have for him, and the fact that that he'll always have that spot there in the jockey room. So great to have him back for his 3 mounts for the night.
Yeah, it really is. Looking forward to seeing Frankie back in one of those mounts, his remake, which is an interesting spare for him. That is Sadati for trainer Michael Costa, whose extremely helpful assistant Joe is on track this morning and told us that Sadati went through the stalls. That's why he's here, which is nice for the media and people here, because Michael Costa obviously trains at the beautiful Jebel Ali stable, so we don't get to see his horses. So I think people would have liked to have seen Marban as well, but nice that they could see Sadati anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's a horse who has well and truly proven himself and earned his place in the race. He's done most of his good work, as we know, at the home track, so we'll see whether or not he can translate that form. Michael's stable has very much been split this season in having those horses who are targeting those local races, but he does have that sort of, I guess, that contingent of horses that very much do still just race here solely at Meydan. He's a horse who has done a lot in Jebel Ali, and we are seeing him change over here. But I mean, look, he's run second in the Jebel Ali Mile. He's been able to pick up the Jebel Ali Classic. He's very fit, and unlike a lot of these horses who have had a bit of a break, he's only coming in off his last run being the 16th of March. So he's going to be ready to go, and it'd be great to see them do there. And look, he's now the sole representative of the race, obviously with Mestri unfortunately coming out, but I still think they've got a nice contender.
Yeah, I did ask Joe about Mestri. He said, we just weren't happy with him, and trainers in any race aren't going to take chances, so hopefully he'll be back next season. I do think they've got a solid chance with Marban in the Al Quoz as well. The horses you just saw with the sort of green jackets on, they were for Julio Olahoa, whose last name I still can't get right. He's got Drew's Gold on the big night. These are a couple of Zabeel Stables representatives. Bupat, for reasons of superstition, isn't putting the saddlecloths on. That looks to me like Galactic Star, though. They're Albastakia winner, with Jenny Ferguson on board, if I'm right. Just having a gentle canter. All of Bupat's worked a couple of days ago. Is that Walk of Stars? I think it might be Walk of Stars. Hard to tell because that horse has got... Oh, it might even be Tuz, actually. I think that's Tuz. Very hard to see when they haven't got when they've got their hoods on. Tuz has got a beautiful star, but you can't see. I think that is Tuz. I say just a routine canter for them this morning. All the work is done at. I say all the work is done at this stage, Cassie. Masaba Al-Maheri, I'm pretty sure, will gallop his World Cup horses this morning. Again, just a way that indicates how everyone does things differently.
Yeah, does things...
Actually, no, tomorrow morning he'll do it. It's always the Thursday.
So always the Thursday, right. So yeah, always things a little bit different, and that's what makes it interesting. Everyone's got their own little spin on things, but... Just going back to when you mentioned just the amount of people that were down there this morning, and we just got some great little crowd shots of how busy it was and the little hive of activity that it is at this stage of the week. And it was great just to show that, because it just goes back to the fact that this means a lot for a lot of people.
And we do have, I think it's around 280 international media and then well over 100, maybe 200 local media. There's a lot of people who want to be part of the Dubai World Cup and hopefully bring their wonderful stories back to their home countries. Well, I mentioned earlier on that we can hear from Kenny McPeek, so let's do that right now. He's with Mikey.
All right, here with Kenny McPeek. Obviously, this has been a fun foray into the Middle East this time. You've really sunk your teeth into the local racing here. Rattle and roll out this morning. You just fresh off the plane. Your thoughts on how he looks?
He looks fantastic. We've had a really good morning with him already. Had a nice swift gallop, which is something I wanted to see him do. But all systems are go right now. We've been really excited about running this horse a mile and a quarter. He's never had a chance in his career to do that, and I think that's a distance that he's made for.
And reflecting on his runs over in Saudi, obviously won the King's Cup really impressively, came back and ran a late running, decent run in the Saudi Cup.
Maybe a little too far back in the Saudi Cup, but hindsight 2020. But he really doesn't want to go one turn. And 9 furlong 1 turn is a race. He did well in the King's Cup, but I think that it needs to set up a little bit better for him. But I think this 2-turn race is really, like I said, we're real excited about it. I think you're going to see the best he can be.
Coming here with a live shot in the race. I know you have to beat Forever Young, but your horse is considered one of the leading contenders. Mm-hmm. How does it feel to be in Dubai with that?
Well, we always like to compete in these kind of races. We were fortunate enough to sneak past Forever Young in the Kentucky Derby with Mystic Dan, and I think that Rattle and Roll is certainly a horse of that caliber too. But this race is so unique because of the distance and the circumference of this racetrack. But we're thrilled to be here, and the facility's fantastic. My staff's done a good job. I'm still a little jet lagged. I'm trying to figure out what time zone I'm on, but it's going to be exciting.
And last but not least, you've been everywhere. Obviously, you have multiple yards and your home base in Kentucky and also Florida base as well. Now, we have to check on the filly. I know it's hard to leave her when you're already all the way over here. Torpedo Anna, is she ready for the Apple Blossom?
For sure. We tried to work her last Saturday. We had sloppy racetrack at Oaklawn. We actually galloped her in front of the grandstand. 60,000 people watched her gallop. That was really, really an honor. And then we couldn't work Sunday either because the track was sloppy. We worked her Monday, which is that yesterday? Day before yesterday? What day are we on? And she bullet worked. So she's going to get another nice happy breeze the following Sunday, next Sunday. And this is a good spot for her. I think the Apple Blossom's a race for her taking if all goes right.
Will she face the boys again?
Too soon to say.
All right. We look forward.
Way too soon.
We hope to see it, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
I am such a fan of Kenny McPeek. He is probably the world's most international trainer. Charlie Appleby would also probably have a little stake in that category. But he's so open with what he's doing with his horses. Torpedo Anna, we had an update on her there, Cassie, which was great. He told everybody last year via Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Torpedo Anna will go on to the Oklahoma training track at Saratoga at 5 o'clock. The fans can go and watch. Yesterday he told us what flight he was on. He's phenomenally open, and it's a big help to us.
Yeah, that transparency, I think, speaks volumes. You don't have to be hiding behind secrets and, I'm giving my secrets away or anything like that. It's just, he's open, he's unabashedly himself, which is great. He seems like a real character. Would love to chat to him one day properly. But you've got to have that transparency. I think it's good for the game as well, because it's like you're telling people a little secret about yourself and you're bringing them in, and then they want to be a part of it. Like, just listening to him then, I am so on board with Rattle and Roll. Like, he was so confident, he's gushing, he's excited. I want Rattle and Roll to win now, just after listening to him like that.
Well, it could happen. Pat, we were just saying while we were listening to Kenny there, if for some reason Forever Young doesn't perform, it's anyone's race, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. I mean, that's the plain and simple. I think we're basing this performance in the Saudi Cup with obviously Forever Young and also Romantic Warrior tearing away from the rest of them. I think that's obviously put a bit of doubt in a few people's heads that maybe Forever Young is just that much better than a few of them. But I am still coming back to the fact that I think the race, the way it was run, was what caused them to get so far away. That obviously how they kicked away at the top of the straight, and I think it left a lot of horses flat-footed. I don't think there's going to be as much pace in this race as we've seen in previous Dubai World Cups, and also as we saw there in the Saudi Cup where they really rolled along. So I'm very interested to see if we do get a more genuine tempo, whether or not, you know, they might be a little closer to Forever Young, and we may have a few. But we're basing this around the fact that Forever Young's going to run a great race. At the end of the day, it is horse racing and things do happen. And Forever Young may have an off day. God forbid he doesn't. But we are also always thinking that maybe these great horses, if they decide just not to rock up on the day, who's the horse that's going to jump up and win the race? Look, as you said, there's 6, 7, maybe even 8 chances around Forever Young that make likely claims that they could be that horse to win. And from a local front as well, you know, even a horse that, what a story it would be for Diva Racing if a horse like Imperial Emperor was able to come out and do it. I think track stats is going to take a massive, it's going to be a massive factor to a few of these horses. And I mean, we even go back to a horse like Ushpa Tesoro, as you said. He's going to be swan song run, and well, even though he's at the back end of his career, he's a horse who's got plenty of form here at Meydan, and we may see that come to the fore as well if we do get a gritty contest and something needs to be running on from the back. So it makes it a very exciting race.
A very exciting race, it really is. It's a very exciting day of racing, and we can take a little look at the Quoz Sprint, which we talked about earlier on, Cassie. And again, this is a very open race. We've got that Hong Kong form, we've got the Japanese form, we've got the British form. We've got Group 1 winners in here in the form of Audience, Regional, Izzy Vungu Vungu. It's absolutely fascinating. And I suppose last year with California Spangle, I felt he was the best horse in the race. In your opinion, who is the best horse in this race?
Well, I have a hope that it's going to be Star of Mystery. I hope she'll come through into this one because they're trying something different as to what she did last year, obviously. But last year, this was my favourite race with California Spangle, Brenton Avdulla. There was all that question about what was the distance going to be like, but Tony Cruz absolutely nailed it. And I think this year it also has the markings to be another wonderful race. Quinault, I'm cheering for this one as well because there was a story that I think you might have been responsible for, Laura. It was put out by the DRC, and everyone loves a real underdog story with Quinault, a recipient of a last-minute invitation, going for the first Group 1 win, formerly trained, had one start for Charlie Appleby, I think it did, Quinault, then was sold in 22, now with Stuart Williams, has been a real revelation. He's well-travelled, and I would love a story like that to come out of the Quoz. I'm all about the wonderful stories of the night. I love that aspect of racing, and when you get to it, every horse actually does have one. So cheering for a horse like that, but I think Star of Mystery, I love that this horse, they're going to send her here. She was well fancied last year, but her path has obviously differed. She's come through the Breeders' Cup behind Starlust, and I thought that she was unlucky in that race, so I'm going to go with her.
Let's have a look at last year's Quoz Sprint and remind you of what happened. As Cassie said, Star of Mystery ran a great race in it to finish second behind California Spangle, who's not here this year. He danced every dance in Hong Kong last season. He was very, very busy. I think this is probably a stronger renewal this year, Pat. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, look, I mean, the race probably was very top-heavy last year, but it look, there's no denying that it probably fell away a bit at the bottom. There was a few horses that were trying their luck on the grass that had the dirt form. I mean, Bill Heil ran an amazing race here, and he's obviously found himself there into fourth position. Diligent Harry, we know he went back and had a decent enough campaign there through the middle part of the year as well, back in the English summer. So, I mean, there was horses that held their own, but I mean, I don't think, even though the time was the fastest we've ever seen, there were a couple of horses I think that certainly ran out of their skin behind. And from a depth perspective, we're probably seeing a bit more of an open and deeper race this year, even though we do have less runners. So, look, I think we've got a bunch of great contenders. To be honest with you, I think Marban probably, and I wonder if Michael Costa has a tendency to agree. I think he's probably a 5 or 6 length better horse than Bill Heil, and we've got him running in this race, coming off some wonderful form races. Even though 1400 metres is probably his ideal trip. He's dropping back here to the 1200 metres, but does have some straight form there. But I mean, he's got that local form. Look, I'd love to put it back on you here with audience. I mean, he's first up. He's the highest rated horse coming into this race. First up over 6 furlongs here. He probably looks one of the speed influences in the race, and a horse that, you know, I think West Acre and potentially How Deep Is Your Love, you know, that they might be giving him a fair start. I'd say that they'll be running him quite sharply in the race, and he'll be one of the first horses out.
We can take a look at How Deep Is Your Love and his win in the Bahia Sprint Trophy over in Hong Kong. I believe we've got that bit of footage for you. And I developed a half-baked theory yesterday that 7 furlong horses, as you mentioned, Pat, do thrive in this race. Jungle Cat was one. Dania certainly was one. California Spangle as well. This looks more like Jebel Ali footage to me. Is it? Yeah, that's not the race I was expecting to see. But anyway, we'll move on. Yeah, I think like you say, if there's a lot of pace on, it could just play to that superior stay out.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's become one of those races where the margins have become so short between first and last. I saw on social media someone class the race. It's almost like the charge of the light brigade. Mm-hmm. They swarm to the line, and there's between first and 8 there'll be only a couple of lengths, but it really has become one of those races where you've got it's a 6 furlong race, but you've got a lot of those horses that are going faster in the early part of the race, faster than they've ever travelled before in a sprint like that. It's almost a 1200 metre race run as a 1000 metre event. So when it comes to that, it's going to be who's going to have that stamina at the back end to be able to hold off, you know, a few of these finishes or potentially close over the top. And I think that's where that 1400 metre form, you know, comes into play. And I'm very interested to see, you know, how we'll see these runners go this season, whether or not this edition is going to see something be able to tear away up in front, or we do have something from the back come on and steam home, because we've had a couple of horses come from back in the field in recent years, but they have only they've actually haven't won. They've got close but haven't been able to take out the win. It's paid to be on speed the last couple of years, which does put slight doubts in your mind about horses like West Acre, who's had a phenomenal preparation here, and also How Deep Is Your Love, who has got that superior form sprint-wise, but you know, is going to be giving horses a start, and also is on the Meydan track for the first time.
And Cassie, we mentioned at the top of the show, we have 13 different nations, horses training in 13 different nations. We don't have Australia. Just explain why that's often the case with this meeting.
Well, I'm going to say we've kind of almost got an Australian representative. Sword Point to go around the Godolphin Mile was formerly with Chris Waller over there, then sold for, I believe, a good figure to Hong Kong. So maybe we could claim that. I guess, I don't know, it took probably until only recent years for me personally to really find out about the Dubai World Cup. I don't know if because that was
that is Sword Point.
That's him right there. There we go. He's looking nice and relaxed. I think he's a bit unlucky. As I say that, he just starts jerking his head around. So he was actually unlucky not to win a Hong Kong Derby a few years ago. He won a black type race back in Australia, and I think that there's a big set of connections coming over for this. It'd be such a thrill, obviously, for them to get in there. But I guess for me personally, in recent years, I haven't really known much about the Dubai World Cup. Probably the last 6 years I started to, and I don't know if that is because it wasn't really shown back in New Zealand, where I'm actually from, or in Australia, but is it because it's sort of too far away for a lot of us?
I think to be perfectly honest, I think it's a very awkward time of the year for Australian racing. I mean, there's a lot of horses coming off the back end of the Melbourne Spring that have targeted sprint features. Obviously, our sprinters are the ones that have obviously made their presence felt here in recent times. Obviously, the Astrologist was a strong run. Will Clarkin from South Australia brought over 2 horses in recent years, and even Lloyd Kennewell years ago they brought over Vedora, who was obviously a mare who was working her way up the sprinting ranks as well. But I think with the Melbourne Spring, you have that sort of those sprint features to the back end. a lot of them use that summertime and potentially coming into the early autumn period to sort of, I guess, have that break before potentially targeting some sprint races during the Sydney autumn. So I think from a timing perspective, it just makes it a little bit difficult to bring a horse here. I think you either have to make the decision to target a race here like the Quoz Sprint and come here with a couple of lead-up runs and use this as a sole campaign, as opposed to a lot of people here can, I guess, work through their campaigns and then duck over to Dubai for a run and make their way back. Whereas I think the way the seasons work and the way it is in Australia, you have to really make a commitment to Dubai and commit your horse here to the whole campaign, because you can't come back and race. There's just not enough time, and the weather will get too wet by the time you get back in regards to finding a dry track. So yeah, it's probably made it a little bit tough, but it's a bit of a shame we didn't have Mornington Glory make his way here this season. I thought
he was mentioned at one point.
He would have been the prime horse to come here. I mean, he was Gavin Bedgoods obviously got him going once again. He was a Group 2 winner last season. He really striked as a horse that probably would have had a great season over here, but unfortunately wasn't to be. But I'd say we'll see Australian horses coming back here in due course. It's just about finding the right one that's going to be able to, I guess, they find that that may be suited here and they can make the full commitment to the full season, because if they're coming over, it's not going to be just for the Quoz Sprint. We see them out here for a couple of the sprint lead-ups as well and make it sort of a 2 or 3 start campaign.
And they do add an awful lot when they do come here. The Australians tend to come along with very enthusiastic and chatty connections, which we love. There is Romantic Warrior following the omnipresent romantic charm, his buddy. And we're not expecting much from this horse today, of course. He had his gallop yesterday under J Mac, so just steady away. And this horse has a phenomenal work regime. Even just a few days after the Saudi Cup, he was back out here on the track going about his business. He's got a remarkable constitution, it seems to me, Cassie. And James McDonald did a lovely emotional interview with Dubai Racing Club yesterday, in which he just said this horse never misses a beat. He's so professional. He never does anything wrong. Yeah,
I had the luxury of talking to him a few weeks ago as well, and he just said he's the most robotic-like horse. Like, he's so professional. He knows his job out there. He thrives on the routine, and he hops on him. He's calm up until the point that James usually hops on him. Then he'll maybe put in a 1-2 step, and he knows that it's game time. So if you do happen to see him out in the parade ring on Dubai World Cup night, and you see him maybe get a little bit toey, a little bit edgy, don't worry, that's all part of his go. That's part of his little dance, Romantic Warrior. But yeah, you can tell that this horse means so much to James McDonald, and he has had the thrill of being on some incredible horses. And you don't want to throw the word champion around too loosely, but he really has been on some serious champions, and this one's right up there. Just everyone's here, a lot of people I should say are here to see him. It was the same in Saudi. Everyone that I was talking to was just buzzing about Romantic Warrior, and every generation or every few years you really need a horse like this, and he's the big one. He's the one for me.
He's been phenomenal, and the way in which they've campaigned him. I don't feel that Danny Shummer's had enough credit, to be honest. To be a horse trained in Hong Kong, to win in Japan is one thing. To win a Cox Plate, it's just something that internationals don't do all that often, Pat. I think I did say I think Danny deserves to be trainer of the decade, which raised a few eyebrows, but I do think what he's done with this horse is incredible.
Look, I mean, it's such a mecca, isn't it? Hong Kong, and they've been such a powerhouse that in the fact that they bring the best trainers in from around the world, it brings in the best riders. But some of these the local trainers, I mean, Hong Kong, China based trainers who have they've had the luxury of obviously coming in, working under some of the great trainers that have been brought into Hong Kong, China over the journey, and basically learn off the best. I mean, Danny Shum's had an amazing career. He's in his own right as a trainer, and he talks about coming to Dubai here 20 years ago when he was working alongside other trainers here to bring some of these great horses here to race for His Highness in these big events when they were running these over a quarter of a century ago. So it's great to see that he's got a horse like Romantic Warrior, that he's able to show off his talents of training, I mean, he's a horse of a lifetime. I'm sure Danny's very thrilled to have a horse like him, but as you said, credit where credit's due to the operation, not only Danny but also the entirety of his stable for keeping this horse in such a great state and keeping himself loving racing and loving what he's doing at such a late age as well. You know, he's obviously a gelding. There's not going to be too much other than, you know, plenty of fresh grass and a nice paddock when he finishes his racing, but he's certainly a superstar horse. And I mean, when they know that this horse is ready to finish up, they will know. But at this stage, it's all systems go. He's loving what he's doing, and it's a pleasure to have him here on the Meydan track once again.
It's been a pleasure having this horse here as well for the best part of 3 months. Factor Cheval, and someone described him yesterday as just loving life, and he does. He just goes around there. He's so relaxed. He's having a little look at the media, who he's well used to. Gregory on board him absolutely adores this horse, and you can see this slightly different riding style that a lot of the French exercise riders have, Cassie. They tend to ride very long, and that's just how they do it, but I do think it plays a part in keeping the horses relaxed.
Yeah, and we were talking about on Rattle and Roll, but it looks a bit more old school. I personally quite like the look of it. It looks very cowboy-like, and it looks extremely, well, it is a lot more comfortable. For someone like me, that is a lot more comfortable than getting the irons right up. And it looks like they are out there for a little pleasure ride, taking a look around. He had his head down low. Yeah, loving life, Factor Cheval. And I love the fact that he's so versatile. And who knows, like on these big nights, anything can come up. And I hope that Factor Cheval is going to be putting his best foot forward, because he does, time and time again. He really does, and I've been on such a ride with him. And imagine having a horse that you could put on the turf, you could put on the dirt, you can go back and forth and just play around with and have fun with, and the horse seems to relish it.
Well, Jerome Rainier was good enough to do a press conference yesterday, and was responsible for a very entertaining moment when somebody said to him, would you say that 1,800 metres around Meydan is optimum conditions for Factor Cheval? And he said, well, yes, he's won his only Grade 1 here over those conditions, so I would say that is his optimum conditions. But he's very happy to have the horse back on the turf, I think, for all that he's put up a couple of valiant performances, as you say, on the dirt. A little bit remote, that shot, for me to see who that is. A Godolphin Mile representative. I think it's No Lunch, actually, speaking of the French. And we talked about this yesterday, but they tend to send their Arabians and their thoroughbreds out all together. They're going a bit quicker today. They just had a little dod around yesterday. This is Javelotto on the right, and Homo Diaz, who came through the carnival and is acting as a bit of a lead pony. Actually, he's been leading Heart of Honour a fair bit this week. But Javelotto on the right, the Hong Kong Vase winner, and he thoroughly deserved that victory over at Sha Tin, Pat. He's up against it here, I think, but he's a horse that is quite easy to underestimate him, and he's incredibly talented, and he's grown up a lot in the last 2 years. Yeah,
look, he certainly has. I mean, he earns his place in the race. He was a strong contender last time out when he was racing in this, obviously in the Gold Cup. I think probably I'd be fair to say that he's probably grown a fair bit since doing that, and I mean, I like the change of direction for him. I think the fact that they're targeting a different race this time around over a shorter trip is going to see him improve greatly. And you know, I mean, the way that he performed in the Vase, I mean, it can't be understated how tough of a win it was to be in such a precarious position under Oisin Murphy, and to be able to sort of not only find in the late stages of the race, but be able to do that by having to burst through traffic. So, you know, very exciting to see how he fares here, Giavolotto. I think he's a welcoming addition here to the Shima, and we'll be looking forward to seeing him run well.
Yeah, me too. I think he will run well as well. He's very effective around here at Meydan. That's Charlotte Mulhall on board Epic Poet. Heard from Danny Tudhope about Epic Poet yesterday, and he was very honest. He said he felt that you know, had circumstances gone better for him, he would have won in Saudi. It was a superb run, and this horse has really thrived through the carnival. He's had plenty of starts now, but he's still improving, which is very interesting. And Charlotte gets on very well with him in the mornings. David O'Mara, few trainers better than him. He really is very talented indeed. And this seems another thoroughly professional horse, taking things steady. We won't see, I wouldn't have thought, too many more strong gallops for the Brits. He's having a bit of a bit of a tail flicking behind there, but nothing to be concerned about. I don't think. And so most of the British horses will have done their work at home before flying their major work, before flying over their major work. Here's another look at Factor Cheval, who's owned by Team Valor. I imagine we'll have a big contingent of his owners coming over to cheer him on. And syndicates, I know that you have those back in Australia, Cassie. Syndicates are a big part of racing here now, and Pat touched earlier on the Diva Racing Syndicate that, of course, own Imperial Emperor. But Team Valor, probably one of the original syndicates, really, aren't they?
Well, fantastic, because it's really just shown how, syndications, those who were into it originally probably had a bit of a tougher go. Maybe they used to have a bit of a bad reputation, but now it's seemingly the way of the future as we get to see him knuckling down into some decent little pacework there. We have a horse running who has about 946 in its syndicate, and the horse's name just escapes me. That's going to be running on the night. But
who's this? Straight No Chaser?
Yeah, Straight No Chaser.
My Racehorse.
Yeah, My Racehorse. Imagine having 946 of them in there. I wonder how many are actually going to be there on Dubai World Cup night. But it is the way of the future, because let's be honest, we don't always have enough pocket money to be putting into racing horses, and those expenses are getting more and more expensive. But people still want that thrill, and whether you own 1% or whether you own 10% or you own 100%, you're still going to be there on the day and you still get that same thrill. And that's what we're really starting to see develop and really take off and go the next level, Laura, in Australia, because syndications are the way that people and young people can afford to get into it.
Still Sunshine, contender from the US for the Godolphin Mile, going around there. Bobby DeBona is the trainer. Chantal Sutherland actually jumped on this horse to help them out with a piece of work the other morning. I believe she used to work for the trainer back home. Still Sunshine would, on the best of his form, have a little shout, I'd say, in the Godolphin Mile. The favourite for which is Raging Torrent, who's trained by Doug O'Neill, and we can hear from his assistant trainer now, Leandro Mora.
It wouldn't be a World Cup without representatives from the Doug O'Neill yard here. Leandro Mora is an old standby. He's been coming here since before he was even with Doug O'Neill. He came with Big Jag a couple decades ago, and he's won races, especially in the Godolphin Mile. He's got 2 wins at Spring at Last about 15 years ago, and then a few years, just last year with 2 Rivers Over. This year, they have Raging Torrent, who is the favorite in the market. First of all, we'll touch on him, Leandro, and touch on you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, and here we are.
And Raging Torrent, he was out this morning and he looked pretty well within himself.
He was happy, so we're also happy how he's done it, and he's been good ever since. So
he had a very good race in the Malibu. Obviously, beat some very good horses there. He's had a little bit of a rest. Any worry with the rest?
Yes, I think that was the key. Leave him straightforward for this race, and I hope it pays off, though.
And is he one of those horses that needs to be a little bit more fresh? Does he like those spaces between his races?
Not in particularly. It was the race that it was right. It was too soon, too close. Okay. So we decided just to pass that one all the way through here, though.
So you've trained him up and through. You've come here before. You've won with types like 2 Rivers Over, like Spring at Last. He seems to be more like Spring at Last than 2 Rivers Over as far as the class level goes. Where does he rank between them?
Yes, he gives me chills. So you're right about that. And he's got a nice action, though. And he's the type of horse that he can do whatever you ask him for. A proper Grade 1 horse, yeah.
And you've, in the big race, we got Mixto in there, a Pacific Classic winner. He was a bit of an upset winner that day, but then came back in the Pegasus and proved that he is a Grade 1 horse.
Yes, we're happy to have him. And he's done very well, and knowing that Frankie Dettori rode him back in the Pegasus, and he was happy. He talked to Doug about, the possibility to run him over here, and put him up to the bus, and so that's how we brought him over here.
And he gets the 10 furlongs that he likes here?
I think he will handle that. He can run more than that all the time. He's got the ability to do so.
Katona's got to answer some questions when it comes to 10 furlongs, your other horse in the Dubai World Cup. He's got to step up in class, it seems, as well, but he does have a win this year.
Yes, he's run well. He ran, what race did he won? The San Pascual back in Santa Anita, and he did pretty well on that. He's a funny horse because sometimes he wanted to be forwardly placed. Sometimes he wants to be way behind. So it's you got to just play with him as much as you can.
I know he ran pretty well in the Breeders' Cup. He was probably giving you signs that he was doing well at that point. Is he giving you any good vibes right now?
Yes, very well. Frankie rode him, as a matter of fact, on the Breeders' Cup in Del Mar. And when he finished 5th by inch, he was scratching his head. He said he made a mistake. He could have happened on a different spot. And that's what makes us to think about it.
Well, you got some live chances here. Are you enjoying yourself? I mean, you know this place better than anybody.
Thank you. We're here. Happy to be.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
He is the loveliest man. I wish them well. They certainly got a massive chance with the Raging Torrent. Our guest has changed slightly. Pat Comerford has departed and we're joined now by David Morgan. Welcome along. Great to have you back. How many Dubai World Cups for you now?
Oh, first one was Roses in May. What was that, 2005?
Yep.
Yeah, man, 20 years.
Well,
That's showing my age, isn't it?
a little bit. My first one was 2006 though, so I'm not far behind you.
That's right, you came just after, yeah. So it's been a while, hasn't it? But Roses in May, I remember coming down the track early morning, my first experience and seeing Roses in May come flying down, doing a gallop alongside Ed Marnane at the time, who was Al Adiat editor. So yeah, that is a long time ago.
I remember that was one of those definitive Dubai World Cup gallops that people talk about. Another one more recently was Almond Eye. Just one of those works that everybody goes, wow. I'm not sure we've really had one of those so far this week. David, tell us what you're doing now, because Idle Horse IDOL is a new venture and it's very global, but with a sort of Far Eastern focus. Is that fair?
That would be fair, yeah. We sort of, I was centering effectively sort of Hong Kong, Japan, but with this global outlook, so we'll cover anything in the world really. We're a small team. Michael Cox is the editor. We've got Andrew Hawkins on board, Jack Dowling, myself. Adam Pingelli does some work in Australia for us. He's done some excellent work recently, actually, around Godolphin and around Rose Hill. So yeah, we cover a lot of different bases, but with this world outlook, I think our motto is Horse Racing United. So it's kind of bringing things together. So these events are absolutely what we're about.
David, for a small team, you said you've got a small team. You seem to be pumping out a lot of good stuff. You mentioned some of the boys that are doing some really nice pieces, but I just feel like you guys have just all of a sudden accelerated, and you're almost everywhere. You're certainly everywhere on my feed.
Yeah, that would be fair. I mean, when you start, we did a previous venture that we did similar with, and we left that and launched this instead. And you start off, you kind of tweaking things. You're thinking, what's going to work? What's this? So you might have a 6-month period where you're just really putting the feelers out, figuring out how things are going to work, getting the right personnel in place. And you're right, it's probably around about Saudi time onwards we've really kicked on. Jack has come on board. Andrew's really kind of hit his straps as he's come into the team, and then with Adam joining us as well. So yeah, we're about producing quality content, good features. We'll see more multimedia going forward. We've got a podcast going. The Idle Horse podcast, the news desk. So yeah, you'll see things accelerate again, I would hope.
I do urge you to check out Idle Horse. It's proper old-fashioned journalism. They're breaking stories. It's absolutely brilliant. Let's have a look at another of the Dubai World Cup contenders. That is the beautiful Hit Show, who, on the best of his form, would again have a chance. And we were saying earlier, David, that if Forever Young, for whatever reason, underperforms, this is a World Cup that's anyone's, really.
Yeah, he's the absolute standout, if we're being blunt. On ratings, the others don't have a hope.
I thought you'd be blunt. That's what I was going for.
Yeah, on ratings, nothing else has got a hope. No chance. If you're just purely going off the ratings, why would you argue with the ratings? They're always right, aren't they? But Forever Young, he's a superstar. I loved this horse from even before he went to Kentucky. Fantastic racehorse. He just seems to just do it each time. Nothing seems to bother him. Saudi was phenomenal. Romantic Warrior, can't underestimate how good he is. And for him to get that run and then Forever Young to just come back at him, that's the mark of an absolute champion in my book. And, he's unlucky not to have a Kentucky Derby on the board as well, the way that race went. So I think, yeah, it is wide open. The two local runners are interesting to me. I think the Americans, their top rated horse is 113, isn't it? That's quite low. So I would think that Forever Young's the standout. If he doesn't perform, what's going to go wrong? Something could, we hope not, but yeah, it's wide open.
It is absolutely wide open. I'm trying to work out who this is on the turf. Something European, I would have thought. Quite late, we're coming to the end of this 7:30 slot. And then there is another slot for the local horses, which comes at 8 o'clock, but we're not expecting to see
Al Nair.
That's Al Nair, lovely horse, second last year in the Dubai Gold Cup, and Connections are confident that he's put what was a slightly disappointing effort in Saudi behind him. He wasn't quite right in his coat. They weren't 100% sure that they had him spot on, but they do now. So I look forward to another big run for Al Nair, who of course used to be based here in the UAE, won twice here for Doug Watson. Let's head back out onto the track, because a horse who I absolutely adore, and we mentioned him earlier on, is Straight No Chaser, who's trained by Dan Blacker.
Straight No Chaser has been the talk of the track for a while here. He's been here a few weeks since the Saudi Cup, Dan. You know, as a trainer, are you happy? Are you happy what you've seen so far, the progression since that race?
Yeah, I'm really happy. He just, he's a really intelligent animal, and he's just thrived in all the new surroundings. He takes everything in, takes it all in his stride. He's a pleasure to train, and I'm really happy with the way he's adapted to the new environment here.
Saw him, he was not reacting, but he's a little keener today, seeing the crowd, looking over. Is that normal for him?
He's a high energy horse. When it's game time and it's business, and he's on the track doing his thing, he's always on his toes. He'll sweat up a little bit. That's just normal for him. So if I don't see that, then I get worried.
And this season, it looks like you've got one box ticked so far. You got a second box coming up. Obviously, the Breeders' Cup at the end of this season.
Yeah.
What would it mean to become the first horse to win all three of those races?
I mean, we just take each race as they come, and the goal right now is the Golden Shaheen on Saturday. We're thrilled to be here, to just take your part. And obviously, when you look back at a horse's career, it's pretty remarkable when you see what they've done. But I mean, obviously, it mean a huge amount to me, being a graduate of the Flying Start program, come back to Dubai and win a big race like this. It means a lot. So. He's just a great horse, and I'm proud to be his trainer.
And last but not least, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that he's been a patience project for you. He is 6 years old now. You've had to really make sure that he got the time he needed.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been super talented. Right from when he was a 2-year-old, he had tremendous talent. And it's just kind of been really the key to him is just allowing him to get to mature on his own time. And thankfully, he's the kind of horse that's just got better as he gets older. I mean, as I said, he's always been super talented, but now he's really doing what he can do at the top level of his game. So it's rewarding for sure to have the. It's not just me. It's all the owners. Everyone's been super patient, and I think that's real key to the horse's success.
And I lied. I got one more. You're facing Tuz. He is the defending champion.
Yeah.
You're vying for favoritism in the market right now. Are you excited about the challenge of taking on him on his home ground?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you look at his record. He likes this track.
Yeah.
But Straight No Chaser, he really adapts to any surface. And his work here on Sunday, his final work was probably one of the best works I've ever seen him do. So it seems like he really thrives and handles this track really well, and I think it's going to be a good challenge.
All right, well, best of luck to you. Everybody's cheering for you.
Thanks a lot.
Fighting talk from Dan Blacker, one of the best works he's ever seen him do. Well, if I was the Connections of Tuz, I'd be a little bit worried. And Dan actually, the week before, flew here from California to watch the horse work and then flew back. It's not a short distance. Straight No Chaser Tuz is the clash of the meeting, David. I wouldn't be surprised if you put up something completely different, but which way are you going on that particular map?
It's hard to go against Tuz, isn't it? But I really liked Straight No Chaser, what I saw in Saudi. So I'm going to go that way. Thought it just looked great. I would argue that the clash of the meeting is Romantic Warrior, Liberty Island. But yeah. In this clash, I'll go Straight No Chaser.
Which way are you going?
I mean, I liked those fighting words, as you mentioned. That fills me with confidence, and Dan Black would be such a success story for him to go full circle. I don't know, home track advantage, Tuz, he's that leading UAE dirt sprinter. He's got so many little accolades beside his name that he deserves this. 200,000 in bonuses awaits him if he can pick up this Golden Shaheen as well. I'm going to go with Tuz, just to argue against you then, David.
Yeah,
he's a
$7,000
$7,000 yearling purchase. He's turned that into 7 million dirhams. I'll go with him. He's the champ on the dirt here.
it's probably sensible.
I cannot decide. I opposed Tuz last time with the American stage, and he made me look stupid on that occasion. I can't let the Liberty Island thing drop. I get the impression that James McDonald is, of his rivals, that's the one he fears the most.
And he should. She's very, very good. If you look at her record as a 2-year-old, sensational what she did. As a 3-year-old, wins the Phillies Triple Crown, brilliant. 4-year-old, she came here, things didn't go quite her way in the race. And she learnt an awful lot from that. I know Mitsu Nakauchida, the trainer, he believes that she's matured an awful lot in the mind, which she would need to. But she's got so much ability. She's quite scary, I think, if she can actually tap it all and pull it all together.
She's fascinating, one of so many fascinating horses on the card, and we'll be talking much more about it tomorrow when you can join us for a much longer programme live from the morning gallop, which is happening down there towards the front of the grandstand, as you might expect. Really looking forward to bringing you around about a 2-hour show tomorrow. Many thanks, David, for popping on at the end there and with some of your forthright views. I enjoyed them.
Thank you. It was good to be here in the sunshine.
It is lovely. Yes, well, you do live in the north of England.
True.
Cassie, thank you. You've been doing a real shift for us all week. Are you back tomorrow?
Back tomorrow. Can't be missing the morning gallop, that's for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that. We'll catch you then. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.